Hey, 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 and welcome to Go All In. I am so glad to be here, as I am every time I hop onto this platform to join you for helping you learn how to truly go all in, right? In other words, be even more all in and allowing yourself to be prosperous as a result of it. Prosperous, of course, in income coming into your life and into your business, but also, well, let me not say but, and also prosperous in your relationships, prosperous in your health, prosperous in your parenting, in all of the ways of your life, right? All the big categories that you can break your life into. I want you to be prosperous in all of them. I want you to feel the goodness and the abundance in every area of your life experience. And that is what I am all about here at Go All In. So, for today, I have been dealing with some different things in my body, which, if you've been following me for a minute, you know I share personal things that are going on with me as references and examples to help you get more clear on how this really breaks down. It's one thing to talk about it in theory, and I love talking about it and teaching on it. And also, I want to help you, even through the podcast, be able to really make it tangible for your own life. So, in my years, what I just think of as like before liberation, I had a lot of different things going on in my body. And I would go to various doctors and seeking comfort, seeking release from the thing that I kept feeling was going on in my body, the like whatever discomfort or lack that I was feeling in my body and my physical health. And I would think of it as a physical problem, like a physical health problem. And I would go to doctors and different types of practitioners. And when I would try to get to the bottom of what it was that was really going on, the general answer I felt over time was it's happening in your head. And I don't know about you, but I hated that answer. Like deeply, passionately dislike getting that response. And it led me to deeper diving into what does that actually mean when people are saying that? And I have worked with a couple of people when I was working inpatient. Someone would, where one of the doctors there would describe whatever the patient was reporting as something going on in their head. So we were working in more of a psych type of facility. Naturally, that makes a little bit more sense. But also, I'm like, at some degree, this is also happening in my body. And so, one of the things that I have studied deeply over the last several years is the mind body connection. And it's now definitely well researched and well documented that there is a mind body connection. And the way that I think about this is that your mind is the center of control over your whole life experience. And when I say the mind, I don't necessarily mean anything other than I'm just addressing there are some of you who might think of the mind as only the ego. And when I say mind, I just mean like in your thoughts, in your beliefs versus being actually the physical manifestation that is occurring inside of your body. I hope that's clear. So it's the awareness that you and your experience of life is happening through the body that you have, and it is always being led by the mind experience, the beliefs, the awareness of you and your experience of life. And so as you believe certain things, we then create a certain experience in our bodies. And this is, again, it's not just like a simple concept to understand. It's not just like it happens in your mind and then it happens in your body. So you like, for example, I think sometimes people think about it like, oh, if I think about, I don't know why, but chickenpox just popped into my mind. If I think about having chickenpox, that doesn't mean that chickenpox immediately shows up on my body. Okay. So just to be clear, right, it's a much deeper concept, a well thought out experiential concept than that. So it's a thought pattern that you have been having probably for a while. And it's become like a truth inside of you. And I see this oftentimes with people who have negative self body image or have negative type thoughts about their body where they're not liking their body. And they have had these more negative, I rarely say the word negative, but more negative, we'll just say for simplicity, thoughts that are less than useful about their body, about their appearance, about what they look like, about, their hair, their breasts, their all different parts of their body, right? And they've been thinking and meditating on it for years. And then things are now manifesting health wise in their body. Most common is they're not weighing the weight that they would like to be weighing. That is, I just think it's the most common way that our thoughts and our beliefs manifest in our physical body. So there's this connection with what we think about, what deeply we think about, right? And when I say that, it's like the things that have become true for you in your thought life, in the experience that you're having. It could also be, growing up, I oftentimes understood from the adults that were around me, that I made things up, that I would express not feeling well. And the feedback I got back is that I was hypochondriac, that I was making it up for attention, essentially. And I would be like, this is so weird because I really feel this thing in my body and I genuinely feel uncomfortable and or I'm in pain or there's, an experience I'm having that I don't want to have and it's causing disruption. And then I was getting this feedback from the adults around me saying that I was making it up for attention, that there was always seemingly something wrong with me as a means of getting attention. And so again, I had been having that fed to me for a while, and it also was true. And so it's one of those situations where I was believing it before I was really seeing it. This idea that that there was always something wrong with me. So, and again, this is like such a bigger concept because it really gets into some of those other like emotional, psychological experiences that we have as kids. And one of those for me was that I was too much. I had a lot of energy. I had a lot of curiosity as a child, and I asked tons of questions and I wanted to understand everything. I wanted to understand the things that I was really interested in, but I wanted to deeply understand them. And so I would ask lots of questions. And so there were a lot of times where I was more than what the adults in my world knew what to do with. The way that that got interpreted to me and the way that I heard it and understood it was, I'm too much. And so I was creating this experience of I'm too much. In other words, there's something wrong with me. There's something wrong with who I am. There's something wrong with how I show up, long before I was vocalizing these complaints that I had about my physical body. So again, it can be a little hard to really even see that. Personally, I'm still growing into this part of my journey with how beliefs create our reality when it comes to the physical body, because it's, again, we're not taught that. Very few of us are taught that your thoughts and your beliefs are creating your life experience. And even if you are taught that, I've talked to so many people who will say they believe that, but then in their conversations and in their experience of things, they're not vocalizing, I know that I'm creating this, because they will blame the external. They will blame their body, or they will blame the stress, or they will blame, the way that things are running in the government, for instance, as the reason that they're experiencing whatever health thing that they're experiencing. So all of that to bring us to when I'm talking about stress and these types of beliefs, right? So it's an awareness that stress is something tangible. And when we break down stress, it is your thoughts and your beliefs and your feelings that you choose to experience that cause you to be dysregulated. So, for instance, I just had one of my clients this week who was expressing to me that they felt really overwhelmed. And this person mentioned it to me 3 or 4 times this week in conversations with me. And I finally addressed it and said, hey, why are you choosing to feel so overwhelmed? Why do you want to have that experience? And we, got into it much deeper from that. And so it was a moment for me to help this client understand that this word and this experience and this feeling that you keep creating inside of you is within your control. And that's one of the ways I think about stress, and that I think for you is really helpful to think about stress, is when you think about it as like stress, right? Is this very vague and less than useful term that we will slap on any experience that we don't really want to be having. And certainly anytime we feel overworked, too busy, overwhelmed, confused, where things aren't going the way we want to, and so we conclude it's a bad day, or things just aren't working in my favor, kind of a vibe, and we'll say, I feel stressed. But what's more true is that you're experiencing one of those experiences. And so instead of saying I'm stressed, what's more true is I'm choosing to believe things that are causing me to think I'm not going to be provided for, or I'm not going to have the things that I want, or that life isn't going my way. That is far more useful than slapping on I'm stressed, or I'm overwhelmed, or I'm overworked, because those ways of labeling it are lacking in your personal accountability. You're deferring your power, you're deferring the reason that you're having an experience to someone else outside of you. Does that make sense? So it's an opportunity for you to tune into yourself and inquire, wait a minute, I feel stressed. What does that actually mean? What is that? What is the experience I'm actually having? Right? So like, let's say this morning you ended up being late to your first appointment, which made you late for future, like the rest of the appointments today. And the reason that you were late is because someone pulled out in front of you and it caused a little bit of an accident with a couple of the cars that were in front of you. And then you ended up having to wait and blah, 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 blah. Right? So your tendency will be to say, I'm stressed because my day has gotten thrown off, right? I'm now behind and I'm stressed. Some sentiment like that. But what's really more true is that you left a little bit later than would have been useful for you to leave. And then a thing happened that caused you to be even more delayed, which caused you to be in a bad mood, which caused you to start having more conscious thoughts like, oh, I can't believe this is happening to me. I'm going to be late now. Oh, my whole day is going to be thrown off. I can't believe I left late. I can't believe this person and the way that they were driving. Something like that. And then you get to your first appointment and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. This thing happened. And then I was late and I couldn't help it. And blah, 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 blah. And now you've like gone into your first appointment with that same energy, which is now delaying even getting started with the appointment. And then it ends up leaving you in the space and in the orientation of my whole day is thrown off. And so then you're in fact late to the next appointment. Again, because we're in the belief, in the awareness of my whole day has been thrown off because this event happened. When the truth is, those sequence of events didn't really have to happen. That was the way that you were inclined, and that is the way you chose to unfold them. And so it's the same way in the body. We're having those types of thoughts going on. And then over time, usually, although not all the time, I mean, you can have an immediate, health crisis of some sort because of the way that your mind is oriented. And a lot of the like confusing things that go on in our body are more from deep, long-standing patterns of belief versus immediate, right? Like a broken arm, that's like immediate. And belief is still guiding the way from the broken arm. I broke my arm. I actually broken 2 or 3 things in my body when I was a child, which again goes right back to one of my core patterns from childhood was there's something wrong with me. There's always something wrong with me, and I'm too much. So it isn't actually surprising to me anymore that I actually did have a lot of things that were mysterious in my body and in my physical health, but then also things that were actually very tangible, that were undeniable things going on in my body, like breaking bones and, different cuts and sores and bruises. I used to get bruises like all the time as a child. That doesn't happen to me anymore. So, and there wasn't any like, significant health label or diagnosis that I got that would have led to the conclusion, like, this is the reason you're bruising. So all of that to circle us back to the body is a manifestation of what is going on in our thoughts, in our beliefs, which is another way of saying our awareness, another way of saying our consciousness, and our feelings. So, taking, for instance, clients that I've worked with, I was 20 years as a therapist. So I've worked with clients of all different types of challenges and struggles that they've had going on. Take someone who's depressed. Lots of clients that I've dealt with over the years have been depressed. And when you sit in the seat of depression, in other words, even depression is like very vague, right? When you sit in the seat of feeling disappointed, dysregulated, not liking your life experience, really passionately not liking your life experience, being really upset about your life experience to the point where you feel numb. In other words, you've checked out and you're feeling numb or hollow in the experience of your life. That's really what I would say depression is. And so when you've had a period of time where you feel that feeling, the diagnosis in the DSM-4 says you have to have that experience over 2 weeks to be labeled with depression. That becomes a state of being. So you have that ongoing in your physical, mental experience as a human. In other words, it's your state of being. When things are our state of being for long periods of time, it 100% is having an impact on your physical health. And at some point, you will see very specific symptoms manifested in your body that are representing that state of being. So naturally, in the time that I've had at least 2 or 3 bouts of real serious, long-standing feelings of numb and hollow. And in those times, I would definitely see physical manifestation in my body, especially being extremely tired, right? That's a very common one that a lot of people experience. And other things, like I was more prone to sickness and like common sicknesses like colds and congestion and stomach upset and so forth. Anxiety is another way that we're in a state of being. A lot of very hardworking, high-performing professionals actually live in the state of being called anxiety, that we could call anxiety. That like nervousness and self-doubt, like a low-level self-doubt, low-level state of nervousness and uncertainty and fearful of what's going to happen, and live that way. I feel like I lived in a state of anxiety without really knowing that is what was happening for probably 20 years. I would say easily. And it's there, and it becomes normal for you to just have anxiety happening in your body and feeling extra tired, extra nervous in your stomach, having different digestion problems, and being more susceptible to different forms of illness. So again, the things that we're seeing being manifested in our body have a very clear path to being manifested through our state of awareness, through our state of being. So the state of being, again, is your thoughts, your feelings, and your beliefs. And those thoughts, beliefs, and feelings that are more long-standing, more deeply ingrained than like a passing thought or a passing feeling. Does that make sense? The difference between the two? And it's those that you believe to be true that are the ones that are long standing or that you spend more of your time with. Those are the ones that will manifest results in your life. And specifically for this episode, manifest results in your body. One of the very well-known people that makes this mind-body connection in modern day is Joe Dispenza. Now, the other person who also is modern day but has since died is Louise Hay. And her book is called Heal the Body. I will drop that into the show notes. And she spent much of her career talking about the impact of what's going on in your mind, in your being, and the impact that has on your physical body. And so she wrote a collection of symptoms and diagnoses in her book called Heal the Body. And you can literally find, it's certainly not all the physical illnesses, but she did a really great job at documenting a lot of physical illnesses that people experience and the direct psychological root cause for the physical illness that has been manifested in the body. And then she gives you like a description of it. And then she also gives you a description of where you need to focus psychologically. And another way you could hear me say that is in your own self leadership of what to focus on to be able to renew your mind such that you can aid the body in its healing and direct the body in its healing, and also stop the effect that your mind is having on the body. So I want to add here that I'm not saying not to go to the doctor or not to work with medical practitioners, just to be like so clear. Do I think it's possible for you to completely heal without the use of a medical professional? I do. I genuinely do. And also, I don't think there are a lot of humans equipped to do that without support. So, what I will say here is the key to learning how to change your relationship with stress and your relationship with your own psychological manifestations that occur in the body and cause illness is to work with someone who really deeply understands this. Right? If you're familiar with Joe Dispenza, his practice has completely exploded because he's attending to the mind body connection. Everyone, I mean, like maybe not everyone, I'll say a lot of people, and certainly medical practitioners, including Western medicine and doctors, they're tired of not addressing the mind body connection because it is so obvious when you've met with people over and over and over. This is how I felt about it even when I was in therapy and didn't have this clear teaching that I now have. But in therapy, before I had clear teaching on the mind body connection, I had some awareness. I had a pretty deep awareness of the mind body connection. Now it's like so much more honed and so much more deeply something I'm talking about. But even then, I had very clear awareness. If you're feeling stressed, your life is going to be more challenging. If you're feeling depressed, your life is going to be more challenging. And you're going to manifest that experience in so many different ways. So, again, so many people know that this is true, and we haven't had the language, we haven't had the leaders to be brave enough to say, this is true, and here's how it's true. Here's how it happens. And so it's so cool to be in this time and place in our journey 2025 where we actually are seeing a lot of practitioners saying and stating this is how it happens. So be grateful for where we are in this journey and in this uncovering. And the key that I want to leave you with here is changing your relationship with stress and your understanding of how you're creating physical illness in your body. So I want you to see it as a point of power, a point of control, a point of empowerment that you actually do affect your body and you can choose to affect it for the better. So it's an opportunity to work hand in hand both with a mind practitioner and also with a body practitioner, and preferably a mind practitioner who also believes in the mind body connection, and the same with a health practitioner. So I love working with my health practitioners. I work with my one-on-one coach who is, a person, I mean, his title is a life coach, a success coach. And also, he does the inner work. He understands and believes that self-leadership is the thing that creates our life experience and is the thing that changes our outer world experience the most and the quickest. So I work with him on everything that goes on in my life. And then I work with other types of practitioners, including medical and physical practitioners, to help me even more powerfully attend to my body. So I want that for you too. The stress, I want you just to interpret it as it's a mechanism for feedback. It's a point of awareness. And so instead of ever using the word stress again, I want you to slow down and ask yourself, what is it that's really going on here in my experience? And use more descriptive and accurate words to understand what is true in your experience. Some things you can very quickly remove and take out of your experience that you don't want. Like the example I explained earlier about if you're running late and then your whole day gets thrown off, you can cut that whole experience off by simply acknowledging, yeah, accidents like motor vehicle, collisions happen all the time. It's not a problem and it doesn't have to impact the rest of my day. Cool. And then the rest of your day can be good. Those things that are harder for us to let go of, that we're way more attached to, and only you know what that is for you. I've shared a couple of mine. Those things that we're more attached to, like I'm too much. I was really attached to that belief because I saw evidence of it everywhere. And in the last several years, as I've worked with my one-on-one guide and mentor, he's helped me to unattach myself to I'm too much, and has helped me shift into places and states of being and states of awareness where I believe the level of passion and energy that I show up with is a perfect fit for some people, and other people are just not equipped to handle what I offer. Totally and beautifully fine. That is how it's intended to be for all of us. So I work with that person. And then as different points of my body reflect back to me greater levels of impact on my body, like currently I have something going on in my gut, in my stomach and in my gut. And I am working on it in the inner work within my own self leadership and the things that I believe and the things that I say to myself and the things that I believe about myself. And also, I am working with medical practitioners, functional medicine type people, to help me give my body what it needs to feel even more, to have the experience that I desire to have, which is a healthy gut and a healthy stomach that can digest all, whatever the foods are that I choose to digest. So that is my message for you in short. There's so much to be said about this topic, right? Understanding not only the mind body connection, but specifically the impact of stress on the body and the physical manifestations of stress and the different ways that we cause sickness and illness to take place in our body. And a couple of the specific steps I want to leave you with is notice what's going on for you. Stop using the word stress. Be more clear, more direct about what experience you're actually having so you can get to the root cause and find the place in your mental awareness that is causing the physical manifestations that you do not want to have. And then ask yourself, okay, cool. So my stomach hurts. Great. What might be causing my stomach to hurt? What might be going on in my mental awareness that would be causing that to happen? I know these are the things that I have spent time feeling anxious about, or these are the things I've spent a lot of my mental energy thinking about and trying to figure out and wanting the best for. Yeah, okay. It would make perfect sense why this part of my body would be now manifesting in a way I would prefer it not be. Cool. That is feedback for me to focus in more, both on my inner work and then also to ask, what else is here for me to be able to attend to this experience my body is having? And then you get the options to respond to whatever it is that God source puts on your awareness to then reach out to then access. So there isn't just one answer, like see this person, right? It's an experience where I oftentimes with my clients will say, put your hand on your heart and lean in and ask God, source, spirit, go within yourself and ask, what is it that's here for me that I am meant to experience? Where is it that I can get even more support to help me understand what is happening in my body and what else needs attention? And then go from there. So I would love to know how this is landing for you, how it's making sense, what questions you have. Where are you like, okay, Sarah, I get you on this part, but not on this part. I get you over here, but I'm not sure about this, or I need more information about this. Feel free to drop any of that in the comments. And as always, I am so grateful to have you here. As you know, I offer my one-on-one coaching path that I think is just the best, juiciest, loving experience you could really ever have in your whole life. And in the form of support, I'll say specifically. And also, I have recently launched a small group intimate experience with 5 people and I call it the Faith Pod. And it's really what it sounds like. It's a pod of people, a small group, intimate, sacred space where you get to come in, get more clear on your life vision and the experiences you want to be having, both in your life and in your business. And then we work together as a community to be supported and also receive the coaching to do the inner work to help yourself become the person that you need to be to create the results that you're desiring. If that interests you, there's a link, of course, in the show notes to reach out to me and have a conversation where I can get to know more about you and what it is you're looking to have happen different in your life. All right, you guys, as always, thanks for being with me, and I look forward to hearing and talking with you soon. Cheers.